everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Fins Bandwagon. I'm your host, Evan Posner, Fins Pos, and with me tonight, unfortunately, Michael Vogel wasn't able to make it last minute today. I was going to do my show on my own, but my brother from another mother, Bobby Finstock, can't help himself, and he wanted to join the show for as long as he wants, because tonight's a special episode. We're dropping the link. If anyone wants to jump in, talk Dolphins, I'm giving the floor to anybody who wants to have the opportunity to talk about anything they want to talk about Dolphins, because it is kind of quiet on the Miami Dolphins front, even though there's things to talk about. I want to give people that opportunity who never get the chance to do so. So when you join the show, don't forget to like and subscribe. And then don't just click on the link and Bobby will let you in. You can come in through audio, video, whatever you guys want. Okay. So Bobby, how you doing? How's the family?
As good as expected, man. It's my last. Well, no, tomorrow I'm flying out back from Florida back to Nashville. I'm visiting my grandparents here. So I've been helping out here and there. So I was able to enjoy the beach a little bit today, kind of retraced my teenage years as walking down in the Atlantic and A1A and remembering walking down to the church and then cross the street to the beach. Yeah. And so I had a good day here, got to sit down, hang out at the beach and then go swimming, and then now I've been producing a couple shows. So it's been great. Got, again, spending quality time with my grandparents and
enjoy it.
Now I'm sitting here with you.
Enjoy it. I just want to give a shout out because we did talk in the backlog. I just wanted to also wish a speedy recovery to someone I consider like a dad, Ralphie Boy. I know you had a little bit of a thing, but we wish you a very speedy recovery. If there's anything we can do, even from up in Canada, we just want to say our prayers, and if there's anything we can do for you, just reach out. So, Bobby, I didn't have a chance to miss some of the shows. I know there's I was kind of seething on Real Talk Finstock before because honestly, it was like, the season, we're now in the month of April. Season doesn't start till September. We are 3.5 weeks away from the draft, which is going to be an amazing 3 days on the Finstock Sports Network, where we're going to literally have back-to-back coverage. And I'm getting sick and tired of the negative nonsense, and I don't call it reality. When people are talking about, the defense may not be good. You want to know what? I may wake up tomorrow and not feel well. You want to know what? Anything can happen. But at the same time, the likelihood that it's not going to happen, let things play out. Stop worrying about the future. Worry about the present day. What are your thoughts on the reality take of the previous show?
Me and Steve could kind of see eye to eye on a lot of things, when it comes to, our concerns with maybe the quarterback position and other stuff like that. But I will say, in regards of the concern with the defense and Fangio, I think that's a little of a reach right now. I agree with Rob. What Rob was saying was that, it's first off, if you're going to complain about, let's wait till the season to complain about. What's there to complain about right now with Vic Fangio? There's nothing. We got Jalen Ramsey, okay? We got David Long. We got Malik Reed, okay? We addressed the linebackers. Baker's still there. Xavier Howard could be better. The defense, even though they were, I don't know, I don't have the rankings in front of me. They weren't top 10 last year, but they did impress in some stints, and they did fail at others. We're hoping that they have a stronger season next year. And right now, based off what Miami has done so far this offseason with the Dolphins defense, you can't help but think that and I don't want to go, they're going to be top 5, top 10. No, but they're definitely going to be a better defense this coming season because all the ingredients are there. I could see you saying, man, the offensive line, damn, what the hell are they doing? It's going to be the same thing. You could be justified complaining about that right now because it's not much different from what we had last season, even though they did improve by stats-wise. Defense-wise, is Miami has put the work in to have a better defense going into next year. Could it go bad? Could the Dolphins have a bad defense next year? We don't know. We can't predict the future. But if you're looking at the ingredients, it looks like it's going to be a good meal. Sometimes meals can be bad, but it looks like it's going to be a good flavor top defense.
Yeah. So for me, the defense they know last year that 2 years ago they led this team. This year they were led by the offense. A lot of these players have a lot to prove. Vic Fangio didn't come here for 4 years being the top defensive coordinator to fail. He knows that the defense has been copied, but he's a brilliant enough mind in the NFL to be able to adjust his scheme. And that's the one thing I say adjust, because that was one of the weaknesses of our head coach last year. And I think it's a good mix of yin and yang between those two. And we have to give it a chance. The draft is still going to happen. There's off season, there's OTAs, there's training camp. And trust me, you know this better than anybody. I'm the first one to bring coaches to task on the post-game show. If we're sitting there and continuing to have these issues on 3rd and 18 and 3rd and 20, I'm going to be the first one to call out these coaches. But you want to know what? Give them the benefit of the doubt. The way I'm able to give McDaniel the benefit of the doubt after last season, because you kept on reminding me he's a rookie head coach, even though I expected more because of the team that he had. I think his biggest failure wasn't his failure because he was saddled with that defensive coach. And in the end, the defense and the special teams ended up being the problem there. So in the end, for me, I'm just honestly, the next couple of months, we should be on this network. You can have your say, but to be totally negative about what's going on with the team when the team hasn't even hit the field yet and there's still a roster to be built, to assume what might happen with every single player because of what happened last season or because of what you can't judge it on that. You have to rely on the fact that if you believe in the stars of this team, the team is only going to get better. They're only going to learn. They're going to be more of a gel team. The coach is going to learn. He's going to look back at the tapes. He's developing a new coaching staff. But he's not bringing in schlubs. He's bringing in anyone he wants. Oh, we have a visitor. I was going to make a joke that everyone on open mic can come except Anthony because I knew he'd show up, and that's always a pleasure. Anthony, welcome to the show. How are you, buddy?
Hey, Bobby. Hey, Evan. How are you guys today?
Not too bad, man. How's everything going?
Hanging in there, brother. How you doing?
Nothing much. Evan, me and my friend, I talked to friends on Facebook who are Dolphins fans, and they do a lot of research on the coordinators and stuff, or former coaches, head coaches, and they were doing a lot of research on Fangio before we hired him, and what they noticed and what they're worried about a little bit. And I want to alleviate their worries. They're worried that, like, within 2 or 3 years, the first 2 years, his defenses are elite or in the top 10, but he starts regressing where it starts going into the mid-20, like the mid-teens, early 20s. Should they be? Are they too worried about that? Should they be worried about that?
No, because in 2 or 3 years, this team, in terms of its structure, in terms of its roster, is going to be totally different. And because the next 2 years, like you just said, is their window to really make a statement and to really go far in the playoffs. They're relying on the next 2 years of Tua's contract when he stays healthy. And a lot of Tyreek Hill's contract is over the next couple of years. A lot of Jalen Waddle is going to be doing a year or two. Like the next couple of years is their window to really succeed. And I think their goal is to do that. And the one thing that Fangio has stated is that he's willing to adjust his ability to adjust. He knows that his defense is at least a third of these coordinators are tied to him, and they've adopted his scheme. But for us, the next 2 years for us, and I'm sure as Dolphin fans, because look at this offseason, is a very long time. A lot can happen in 2 years. But at the same time, Vic Fangio has the ability to bring the best out of his players early on, but that's what we need now. Like I've said, and Bobby's heard me say this many times. Whoa, people are saying, why aren't we drafting development players? Why aren't we trying to develop an O-line? Why aren't we develop? We're not in the window of developing an O-line. We're in the business of winning now. We want to make the playoffs now. We want to make a deep run over the next 2 years. We don't want to be trying this in 3 years. If in 3 years we're just starting to hit the cusp of winning 2 or 3 playoff games and potentially being a contender for the Super Bowl, Mike McDaniel won't be the coach. And in 2 years from now, Vic Fangio won't be the coordinator. If they only creep to getting to 10 to 11 wins this year and they don't win a playoff game, and next year they get there and they win 1 playoff game, they won't make it to next year. I'm telling you this right now. I'll put the stamp on it. If they don't win a playoff game, at least 1 playoff game, or probably 2, Greer McDaniel will not be here next season, and I'll be the first one to toot their horn. They have the development of the players right now. This team, as I said to Bobby so many times when I first joined this network, we only knew 1 elite player for most of our time. It was Dan Marino. You could sort of put Ricky Williams in there, but he wasn't here for a while.
Jason Taylor.
Jason Taylor, yes. But I'm saying as an outstar, Jason Taylor was never what you would call the standout number 1 or number 2 defensive player in the league. Neither was Zach Thomas. Dan Marino, for most of his time, in line with Joe Montana and with John Elway were the top 3 quarterbacks in the league for almost 15 years. When you talk about this team right now, you could talk about the fact that Jalen Ramsey is one of the top 2 or 3 cornerbacks in the league. Xavier Howard, when healthy, is a top 5 secondary player. Javon Holland this year could be easily in the top 5. Tyreek Hill is by far number 1 or number 2. Jalen Waddle, people are talking about how underrated he is. He's in the top 5 just based on his stats alone. So for me to have these defensive players, and then to look at the defense in terms of what we've developed on the defense, Christian Wilkins is improving. Zach Sealer, Bradley Chubb, when he played with Fangio, was a Pro Bowler. Teron Armstead is a Pro Bowler when healthy. Yes,
Jalen Phillips.
Jalen Phillips, we'll get there. Jalen Phillips is going to be an absolute freaking stud because some people have sophomore slumps. This guy, when Ogbo went out, was the best thing that ever happened to Jalen Phillips, and he literally got out of that because he started off slow. For me, Vic Fangio knows what he has here, but he's amazing at developing teams because the one thing that we've always talked about with his defense is even when Denver wasn't very good, he had a top 10 defense when he was there because that defense was stout. And part of it was having Bradley Chubb and having the key elements that he has here. This defense has what they need in order to succeed. But like for me, I have high expectations now. I plan on banging my pots in Miami over the next 2 years. If we don't, I'll be sorely disappointed. Because this will be an utter failure on McDaniel and Greer. They need to win. I expect them to win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years. If they don't win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years, I will be thoroughly disappointed because of the fact that they're building the foundation of this team. And by getting because you don't go get a Vic Fangio when you're developing a team. You go get Vic Fangio when you're trying to win. Period.
And I told my friends this. Fangio doesn't like to draft developmental defensive players. I don't think Fangio has the patience for that. He's one of these coaches that wants to be. He wants to deal with veterans instead of rookies or second-year players that still need development and stuff like that. Yeah. That's what I worry about with what's his name, Javon Holland. He's a second-year player, right?
Third.
Wow,
it'll be his 3rd year this year. Snowman will be it'll be his 3rd year this year.
Yeah. No, and I told this to my friend. I told this to my friends, Bobby and Evan, that Javon Holland's production is going to skyrocket because he doesn't have to worry about covering for Cater all the time and stuff like that.
He has Jalen Ramsey. He has Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard. He's not going to have – he literally had to support Xavier Howard last year because Xavier Howard had to cover the slot, which is not his forte because of the scheme of the defense. Because Needham wasn't there, Troy Williams wasn't there, Byron Jones wasn't there. So there was a lot of pressure on Xavier, who was not 100%. That Javon Holland basically had to clean up everyone else's mess. And there was no Brandon Jones either.
Let me just say very quick because Evan made a comment. And I'm looking at, I can see now I'm not in a pink room. It's beige, first of all. And this is my grandmother's house. So I'm in this room here. Not how my room looks. Just want to throw that out there very quick. And secondly, I want to thank everyone who's watching, whether you're watching on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube. You're watching the Fins Bandwagon on the FinsUp Sports Network. Smash that like and subscribe button. That's Evan Posner right there. I'm Bobby FinsUp. We got Anthony Manzano with us right now on the line talking Dolphins. You see the link is in the chat. If you want to hop on, throw your 2 cents. Come on, join us. It's open mic night here on the Bandwagon. Go ahead, Evan.
Oh, hey, by the way, Evan, on No Holds Barred, did you guys talk about the sale? The WWE sale?
Hey, we're not having the show tonight. We're going to probably have the show Thursday night, and we'll talk about it then as we talk about.
I talked about it last night on East 10th Street Boys.
Yeah, but I must tell you, though, we'll talk about it on right now.
You have another guest.
Who? Hi, Ben. Guys, I want to introduce Ben, okay? Ben, I'll tell you a funny story about Ben. I paid him to come on the show tonight. I bribed the guy. He's wearing orange because he's seeing the Dolphins. He fits the scheme, right, Ben?
Yes, that's one reason.
Yeah, Ben actually wears orange on Tuesdays.
I have a different color shirt for every day of the week.
Ben's one of my employees. He's a great guy, and he always joins the show. He likes to hear my voice, and it's because it sort of reminds him of work. So, Ben, why do you like the network? Why do you listen to every show on this network?
Because your passion for your work reflects your passion for your Dolphins. You know, you should hear Evan's booming voice at the office. It's always music to my ears.
Hey, Ben, I have a question. Since you work with Evan,
yes?
Does he have a big head at work?
A big head, but equally a big heart.
Oh,
That's really look. How much did I have to pay him to say that?
And not only that, he bribed us, and we went for a company walk today.
So, but by the way, he has the nicest setup, Bobby. He has to look at you and my ugly faces on an 85-inch 4K television.
oh
But
yeah.
I'll tell you that thing is
so
absolutely
I'm on
sweet.
my couch in my living.
It's an absolutely right now. He's looking at our ugly faces on an 85-inch 4K
I
television.
didn't full screen it though, so.
Oh, thank God! Me on a close up, forget about it. So,
you have a 4K? You have 4K?
Yeah, I have an 85-inch 4K. Yeah, I bought it during COVID.
You're lucky. You're lucky he doesn't have you guys on 8K.
Oh, thank God, no.
Day,
We might blow. We might pop up the screen. So, Bob, have you learned anything about the? Do you actually take in the stuff that we teach you, Ben, or can you name me at least more than one player?
I know your emotions about Tua go up and down. So my question.
Can you name me one player besides Tua on the team?
My first question is, who's Tua? I'm guessing. I'm guessing he's the Tom Brady of the Dolphins.
But you know who Tom Brady is? No, he's not. But he'll never get.
You have failed.
I'm not. I honestly, I tried to keep I actually at work I keep my Dolphins passionate to a normal level. I don't really talk about.
See that jersey on the back there next to the frame with the number 2 behind it?
Yeah, that little number 2 is it has my name on it in my year. That was a gift from my staff because I'm such an obsessed Dolphins fan. Everyone knows about my obsession. It's all Bobby's fault, right? It's all Bobby's fault.
So Ben, have you do you watch both NFL and CFL or just CFL?
He knows nothing about sports. The guy knows nothing
I'm
about
your
sports.
stereotypical Canadian. I watch
hockey
hockey
fan.
here and there. I wouldn't call myself a hockey fan.
Are you a Canadians fan?
Yeah,
I'm a Canadians fan, but not a hockey fan. Again, I'm on the bandwagon, So again, I stopped. But again, best present last year. This time last year, my boss took me to a hockey game for all the hard work I did.
There you go.
Yeah, I wouldn't take him to a Dolphins game. He wouldn't know what to talk about. Plus, those tickets are a premium. Ben, I appreciate you watching the show. I really appreciate it. He's one of our lucky subscribers. Ben, now you have to get your you have to ask your friends, parents, and neighbors to subscribe to the network too. They don't have to watch, but to subscribe we get to 1,000.
And sometimes I just put the video, put it on my TV or my computer, and I press mute or I open a new tab just so you can get the views.
There you go. All right, man.
Bobby, he was sending me yesterday. I didn't have time. I was in a bunch of back-to meetings, and I kept on getting screenshots from Ben. Look what I'm watching at lunch today. I was watching FinsUp today.
FinsUp today. Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it.
I screenshotted the chat, and usually I see Evan's comments bombarded, but I was worried because Evan was a ghost.
I'm surprised. I was surprised.
I know people get concerned when I don't show up for about 45 seconds. So now getting back to Dolphins talk, I actually want to, one thing I read about today, guys, I actually found this interesting thing. Anthony, if you have any other things you want to talk about, definitely jump in. But Ben, you can just listen and have some fun. But I want to rank, someone did a ranking of the top signings or top offseason moves by the Miami Dolphins. And I want to go step by step in order, because this guy, Alan Poupart, who I don't like just because of how he ranked him, I was surprised by the list. But I want to get your feedback if you guys agree with this. And I can go in 1 to 27. If you see one that doesn't make sense, we'll jump off. Ben, who's your favorite Dolphins player? He doesn't have a clue, Ender. Ender, are you going to drop? We dropped the link, Ender. I want to hear your voice. Join the show. Let's have some fun. So, Bobby and Anthony, do you totally agree that getting Jalen Ramsey was a number 1 offseason move?
Anthony's dropped out. I think his link fell out, but
okay. Bobby, what do you think? Is it the number 1 move for you?
I think Fangio was the number 1 move. I'd say Fangio was the number 1 off-season move for the Dolphins.
Yeah, he did bring it up.
We've gotten star players in the past, and they don't pan out. I think Fangio is going to impact the entire defense, and I would say he would impact the entire team.
Yeah. For me, he mostly focused on players, but 100% agree. For me, the coaching staff is the number 1 thing. The thing that I was shocked about what he did number 2. I was surprised that he actually thought the Raheem Mostert was the second most critical move they made this offseason. I don't agree with that at all.
No.
Like Dave, he put David Long right after that, which I would more tend to agree. For me, on overall, like you said, Fangio, but for me, David Long was more of an important. Raheem Mostert, you can go the way the running backs are set up by committee.
I would say
have consistency, but
if that's I agree with you. I would say if Fangio's number 1, Ramsey's number 2, You know,
and then he put David Long, but then he put Van Ginkel as number 4. I was like, what is this nonsense?
Oh, I won't hate on Van Ginkel.
No, but number 4.
Well, who should be above him?
Tua's 5th-year option should be in the top 3.
No.
100%. Yeah, 100%. No, because you want to know why I'm saying Tua's 5th-year option? Not because like you have said a million times.
I know. Yeah, I know what I said.
In 2 years from now, even next year, if it doesn't work out, you can still go get a quarterback for $20 million.
Yeah, no, I get it.
For me, Braxton Berrios is a bigger deal than Andrew Van Ginkel. Yes, because you need a returner. Andrew Van Ginkel's a depth wide receiver. This guy at least has a dual threat to his name.
Yeah, but Van Ginkel has made a lot more impact plays.
Or number 3, I'd put Byron Jones, releasing Byron Jones. Like that's a no-brainer. Like, I don't understand, like, for me, like, these little things about, like,
you know what you should have done? Can I tell you what you should have done? Since you're so opinionated on this article, you should have made a competing article and wrote it for Dolphins.
I don't write for me.
You could write. You could write.
You want me to go write a competing article? I'll write one for tomorrow.
Yeah, write one for DolphinsTalk.com. Okay, if you're thirsty for Dolphins content, go to DolphinsThirsty.com and write an article for that gentleman who's a good dude. And because I would love to see your opinion. I think you might be a fun damn read. I'm going to be very honest with you.
Oh, I'd be hilarious. Dude,
Daniel,
I'll do it. I'll do it this week, okay? I'll do a competing off-season move article, but you're going to have to be my editor-in-chief. I do not write well.
Daniel, let me respond to Daniel very quick.
Daniel, why don't you join the show? Daniel,
can join the show.
You're on the bandwagon. You join both shows. Come drop the link. Let's introduce yourself. You don't have to show your picture. Introduce yourself.
Rob says you got it right. Look at Rob says right. You know, and Rob, you see, I'm trying to hook you up, brother, trying to get you some additional content. Trying to help out Rob. But and I know I haven't been able to write the last week or so or week because I've been so busy traveling and all that. I love writing. I love talking Dolphins. I love talking sports. But I really enjoy Rob's site, and Rob has some good stuff there. He works very hard, and he's a good dude. So and anybody, if you love talking Dolphins, man, reach out to Rob, Dolphins Thirsty on Twitter. Say, hey man, I'll be able to write. And if you got a little bit of experience, it doesn't have to be deep. Man, I'm sure he'll be happy to have you on board. But talking to Daniel very quick, Daniel, Violet. I don't want to say Violet.
Oh, Joshua Kimmelis.
Oh, you son of a crap. I told you not to say his name. I don't know if he wants to be that shared. But anyway, hit the link. Come on, let's talk Dolphins. Daniel, you're hearing a lot of juice. You brought up on yesterday's show, I believe on the comments afterwards, and I've talked about that. Defensive tackle is an option at 51 and 84. Absolutely. Again, and I will say this, and I'm not going to win because you know what I've been saying. You know my critique of Chris Greer, okay? My brother asked me when he was visiting here the other day after everything's done. My brother's a defender. He's been a defender of Tua, but that is his biggest concern with his team this year because he thinks this team is on the doorstep, but he thinks it could fall all apart with Tua if he gets hurt. But one of the things we were discussing was let me see. I'm sorry.
But okay, Mr. Violet, Mrs. Violet, however you want to be referred to, you were 100% right. And last night was total Vince McMahon. He did the exact thing to John Cena. He did the exact same thing to Roman Reigns when he freaking handcuffed him. If he gets more involved, like you say, all elite. He's literally going to destroy this league. The valuation of this team, he's lucky he's getting the sale now. Because if Vic McMahon continues to run the WWE like he did last night for the next couple of months, the company would be worth half of it. The guy literally last night, there was one of the worst Raws after WrestleMania I've ever seen, and I've been watching wrestling since I was 5 years old.
I think they were so distracted with the sale. McMahon has run all the Raws at the WrestleManias, and they've all usually been great. It's just
this is awful.
Yeah,
I know, still, by the way, it was so badly run.
We're gonna end up talking WrestleMania because I disagree with you 1,000% on the main event of WrestleMania, but I know that's gonna take us way off. But let me just say, that's my grandma, man. I'm here at her house. This is her location. Graham, and she's
you have a beautiful grandson. You have a beautiful grandson. No, but I just want to love you guys. I don't want to cack the show. I'm about to get into Fortnite.
Appreciate you, Josh. Let me just say, Daniel, I'm sorry. The one thing I want to say, because I was just saying about Chris Greer, I've criticized Chris Greer a lot. And something I was going to tell my brother, that I was talking about my brother with the whole Tua thing. But the one thing he came at me is kind of how you did during the season when we traded for Chubb and the other one. Are you ready to, what do you want to say about Chris Greer now? And what did I tell you? What was my response to you?
The job is not
finished. Is the job finished? Is the job finished? You said no. I said, then why? And I asked him that yesterday. I said, is the job finished? Or the other day, and he goes, no. Well, I said, then talk to me when we, because they still got to do that. But what I love what he has done in the Dolphins front office and what they've addressed, they basically addressed most of their needs, not the way some fans want them to, but they have. I don't think there's a position you could look at and say, well, the Dolphins didn't look at do that need. No, they've addressed them all. The only issue is that they haven't addressed it the way most of us would want them to. But you know what that does for the Dolphins? It gives them complete flexibility in the draft at 51 and 84. Could that be a defensive tackle? Could be. Could it be a wide receiver? Maybe. It could be. I don't think any position is off limits, and that is such a damn beautiful sight. And it also opens the door for, yes, people go, oh, Dalvin Cook, oh, this one. You know what? Miami has set themselves up that they could make that move, but they don't have to. They're not forced to. They can sit by and make the best possible deal because they've set themselves up, because they brought back Mozart, because they brought back Wilson and
they added more cap space. By signing Smythe, they added more cap space. But for overall for this team, no one's in a rush. Think about it. Aaron Rodgers was supposed to be traded weeks ago. No one's rushing until the draft happens, until the June 1st cuts happen. You don't know what's going to happen. And also, what's his name? What was I going to say? Brandon Shell's still sitting out there, and he did a serviceable job for us if they need to go get him. So for me, overall, I'm not that worried. And Ben, I just want to give you a reminder. You have to go to DolphinsThirsty.com, and you have to come back on the show next Tuesday, and you have to read about the Miami Dolphins, and I expect you to answer Daniel's question on who your favorite Miami Dolphin is, because you're going to learn about it. And I want you to come in and tell me which one of Dolphin Thirsty's articles was your favorite and what you learned about it, and you're going to summarize it on the show. Okay, I expect you to be a Dolphins fan.
Come on,
by the end of this season.
Don't go on him like that, dude.
You have homework.
He's off the clock.
I feel like I'm in school again. So
I'm going
to give you time off. I'm going to give you a time off at work to learn about the Miami Dolphins. Okay.
Oh, I'll take that. Oh, okay, that's cool, Ben. I get it. Now I know why you like him. He's gonna let you off work, talk Dolphins. I got you. Let me just say again, whose options at 51?
Everyone.
Yeah, no, but defensive tackle wise, okay. Let me pull this up. I have names. Actually, hold on a second. I don't need to look at that. Hold on. Let me grab something.
Ben, if you ever need good reading, read DolphinsThirsty.com.
I'm on it right now, and I want to watch later a YouTube video of the Dolphins history.
Yeah, you want to learn something? Go watch the profile of ESPN on Dan Marino. You want to learn something about a quarterback? Go read about Dan Marino.
So speaking of Dan Marino, what's your opinion on the first Ace Ventura movie? That's all I know about the Dolphins and Snowflake.
What was it? You know about Snowflake?
Yeah.
The only thing I learned about Ace Ventura, why it was such a bad movie. Because since when do you have an afternoon Super Bowl where the home team hosts? It doesn't exactly make sense.
So
there you go, historically inaccurate.
Let's say, okay, so these are a couple guys. I got that way. I have the list in front of me. So first off, more than likely, this guy. What makes sense is him going into the first round. But crazier things has happened, and I think he could slip. And that's Brian Breesy.
Yeah, Dolphins
like Clemson players. I wouldn't be surprised if he was there. They would grab it, but that's more of like a prayer and hope. Keanu Banton out of Wisconsin. That's a guy that I would not be surprised. He fits Miami. He's a better run defender. Cansey's going to fly up the board. He'd probably be early second for late first. A guy who intrigues me is Tali Tupalatu from USC, Southern Cal. He could play edge. He could be a D tackle. The guy, Sayaka Ike out of Baylor. He's another guy that I like that I've brought up at 51. A guy for Rob's School of Florida, Garvin Dexter. He's another one. We have a guest as well coming on, so let's go ahead and welcome. I don't have his first name, but it's Labratu. What's up, brother? Hello. Thank you for joining.
My name's Todd Liberto, by the way.
Todd Liberto, welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Not too bad. It's a pleasure to have you. The floor is yours. We're giving you the opportunity to say whatever you want for as long as you want. Go ahead.
I've been a Fins fan for almost 40 years.
Wow.
So I've been watching them a long time, seen a playoff win, thank God. I give a lot of respect to the young people who haven't and are still fans. But my thing, I see a player that they brought in that I really do like, and that's Overshawn from Texas.
Yes.
As a third-round pick, I think he would be a nice little. Him and Tyndall in the future would be a very good combination in that middle, I think. And if anybody can get the talent out of him, it'll be Vic Fangio.
So speaking of Vic Fangio, because on the previous show, our colleagues were really hard on him and not really being so high. So when you heard that Vic Fangio was finally signed as the defensive coordinator, what are your thoughts on him? Are you a fan of his? Do you believe he can turn this defense around? What are your overall thoughts on him?
Dude, I don't see anything less than a top 10 defense this year.
I agree with you. 100%.
He is that good. And there's another person that I watched that brought up a good point. Tua struggled against his defense.
Yes, first major game was that.
Not even that. Forms of his defense. The Chargers run a form of it.
Yeah.
The San Fran runs that zone heavy, drop back to linebackers.
Yeah.
And if he's going to practice against the master of this defense, it's only going to make both sides better.
Yeah.
So I'm really high. I honestly, we brought in Ramsey. Great move. Great steal of a draft or trade. But the way I look at it is Fangio is the best signing we had this offseason.
Yep.
Music to my ears.
True.
You're 100% right. Because I think we said this last season on this show, the coaching staff can make the biggest difference with this team because that's where the team struggled. We couldn't form a staff with the players that we had on this team to get the coach that we want, the development that we want, to get the stud players that we have, to develop them together. That's that's the main focus. So growing up with being a huge Dolphins fan, who was because I always like to learn a little bit about the person. Who was your favorite player growing up over the years? Like who got you passionate to Dolphins?
Honestly, it was a guy that I met, and I was always a Mark Clayton fan. You were
a Marx Brothers fan. Good for you.
Yeah, Clayton, man, the stories you heard about him in college, jumping the ping pong table.
Yeah.
And just the stuff that he would do out on the field.
Yeah, I could imagine him and Tyreek Hill on the same field. Holy crap! Different generations.
I'll stick with Waddle though, because that's just pure speed. That kills you. And Berrios is going to kill it in the slot this year.
And
that man knows how to get open.
And the return game and
mm-hmm.
But is that who got you really into the Dolphins? Like he was your main biggest favorite player?
I'm from West Palm. My dad got me into watching him when I was young with him, but he turned out to be my favorite player. But it was in my DNA. I got to be a Dolphins fan.
Have you attended any games? Have you attended any games the last couple of years, or?
No, I'm up out of town now. I'm up in Jacksonville for the last so many years, and I was going to attend the game last year until it moved to overseas, which kind of irritated me. But when I was younger, I used to go to almost every home game.
Like the Orange Bowl or more Joe Robbie?
Both.
Both, very cool. That's awesome. Up in Jacksonville, do you have a lot of Dolphin fans or mostly Jaguar fans?
It's funny. I do see a lot of Dolphin license plates.
Yeah, they travel up there.
But they're all of a sudden a lot of Jaguar fans coming out now that they're good. But
that may not take very long, right? They go up and down like yo-yos. That's By the way, you want to hear a crazy stat, Bobby? I don't know if you saw this. Do you know there's only 4 teams that have had winning records 3 consecutive years? That have had winning records?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
You know who's on that list? Kansas City, Buffalo. I forget. Maybe can't remember what the other one is. But Miami's on that list. As crazy as that sounds, Miami's one of the 4 teams in the last 3 years of the NFL. As bad as people think we've been, and disappointing we've been, they've had 3 winning seasons. At least we're winning football games, right? We win more than we lose.
That last team, I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't San Francisco.
It could be, but I think they may have had one down year, but I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. Was it?
Let's see.
Bobby? can't remember who it was.
No, I haven't said nothing. I'm
It was
researching.
Buffalo.
something.
I know it was Buffalo. It was Kansas City. It was Miami. And it was one more team. Maybe it was San Francisco. I have a feeling.
I think this year we sweep Buffalo.
Oh no, Buffalo's regressed. Like people can talk about Josh Allen. We gained a Hall of Fame defensive coordinator. They lost a Hall of Famer defensive coordinator, and they're going to feel it. They're not just replacing.
We gained probably I would say a top 5 defensive coordinator of all time.
Yeah, for sure.
You think
100%.
about this man. This man's top 10 every year. Every year, but like 1 year, I think.
Yeah, and people can talk about how the last year the defense it was giving up so many points. They cost us so many games in terms of the number of points they gave up in a game.
The
Dolphins keep them in there.
The Dolphins have one of the best staffs that they've had in a very long time, offense and defense right now.
Yeah,
and you know what?
It's a different story.
You know what gets me is Fangio has the front that he wants. He has the edges he wants. You think about when Denver was killing it. He had Chubb on one side. Who was on the other side?
Wasn't where?
Come on.
Who was
He's now in Buffalo. He's in Buffalo now.
Oh, Von Miller. There we go.
Who's our Von Miller? Jalen Phillips.
Jalen Phillips, who's going to ridiculous.
And you got Chubb on the other side.
Yeah.
So he has that he wants. I don't think he's ever had 2 corners, but I'm telling people, don't be surprised. I see Jalen playing a lot of safety for us this year.
Yeah.
He's going to move back and play a little bit more because that's going to be his little chess piece. I'm going to move him around. And that's, you think about it, you'll have across the board, you can have X. You can have Needham in the slot and Kohu on the outside on certain plays and drop Jalen back into safety to play back behind Kohu. And you'll have Holland. And then you got Holland or Trill on the other side.
Yeah, you guys, it's 100% right. You're spot on at everything you just said. 100%.
Because where he played his best last year was in the slot because he was number 1 against stopping the run. So if you have, I think that's part of the reason we didn't go high or go quick in on that one safety from Buffalo and let him go back.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, for me, Poyer, we didn't sign him. The defense is really stout. There's depth there because unlike Bobby, the one thing you've always said, and we've always said, we're lacking depth in some positions. The one thing we're not lacking this year is as long as everyone stays healthy because of the Jalen Ramsey signing, is we now have depth on defense. Like they're on the secondary. Like there is actual depth there in terms of you have these
probably
2 star
now.
Huh?
Probably one of the deepest positions.
Deepest secondary I've seen in a while. And is Rose still on the roster? Is Rose still there? I don't even know.
No, he's gone.
He's gone, eh?
He was a free agent.
Who was that?
Yeah. Eric Rowe. Because who knows? If he's not signed yet,
He's gone. They
might bring him back. I don't think he signed anywhere though, eh?
We're not going to bring him back. We got the guy from we got the guy from Detroit.
Yeah,
who doesn't know how to keep it. Yeah, who doesn't know how to keep his mouth shut.
Holy crap.
And then you turn around and you got Trill. They're going to think about moving to safety.
Yeah.
For now. So I don't think we're bringing anybody in the secondary. If anything, listen, I love the David Long pickup. I love it. David Long is a beast, but I want some insurance.
Yeah.
I want somebody else because he does get.
Yeah, I think they will get another linebacker.
Yeah, but he has soft tissue injuries. That is something that can plague you for quite a while. Look at Devontae Parker.
Yeah. 100%.
You know.
No, for me, of anybody, we talked about right now, for me, right now, if 51 is sitting there and Jack Campbell is still sitting there and he somehow falls, which I doubt he will, I'm going to go grab him faster than you can believe. I would take him over.
That's a tough call because there's going to be a couple offensive tackles that we could plug and play at the right side too.
Yeah, Cody Mock. I mean, that's the thing with the Dolphins fans right now.
What if that guy Jones drops at 200 from Ohio State?
Yeah, Roger Jones. You mean? Yeah,
I think he's 200 or 370 pounds.
Jaron Jones. Sorry, not Roger.
Right.
Jaron Jones.
You know, it's going to be a tough call on some players. But here's the thing I want to know from you two. What is taking so long to re-sign Christian Wilkins?
I think they're waiting to. I honestly think that they're waiting for that opportunity. That when they think they need, because I think that when they signed Christian Wilkins, when they signed Christian Wilkins, they're ready to make another trade. So I think they might wait for the draft because if something falls like a Charbonnet or they feel that they can get the running
That's
back they
not
want.
what they're saying, though.
No, but this is what I do. This is what I think. Okay, I don't care what they're saying. You'll tell me what they're saying. But what I think is that they're waiting for the draft to play out because if the draft doesn't play out the way they want and they get another running back, because I think they still are interested in Dalvin Cook if an opportunity does arise. If they can get a stout running back that they feel that they can really be a player for the next 5 years, because think about it, all the running backs again that were signed this year are on 1 year contracts essentially.
Right.
So they may have no running backs again. So if they can get a Charbonnet or they can get someone, an Ibrahim or someone they can believe in, a Jahmyr Gibbs in the draft.
Oh God, that would be a steal.
Then I think the Wilkins thing might still shit a little bit. But if they don't get what they want, I think they might sign Wilkins pretty quickly, ironically, because it'll give them a little more cap space, depending on how the draft goes. And they might trade for somebody else and then try to get rid of Cedric Wilson. I think the draft, I wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins do something weirdly during the draft, because the benefit of signing Christian Wilkins is if they can't get that stout defensive tackle in the draft, they're going to sign him. They're not going to just trade him away for nothing. But when they do sign him, they're actually going to get cap space out of it. I think that it's the one area where they don't feel rushed. But at the same time, don't be surprised if they sign Christian Wilkins, they're also going to sign Zach Sealer. I really think that those two are going to be a combination signing. They really play a duo against each other. Like I actually picture, I sort of say this sometimes to Bobby, that McDaniel and Tua are really aligned with each other, with sort of tied with Chris Greer, that Christian Wilkins and Zach Sealer are really tied to each other as well. That front really is really a duo that needs to stick together. I really think they benefit from each other. On their own, they're still good players, but I think they benefit from each other.
I love them both. Zach Seiler is probably the most underrated player in the entire NFL.
100%.
But here's my issue. Yeah. My issue is that big contract that Washington signed Payne with.
Yeah, he won $17 million. Yeah,
I am so hoping it's not hitting that 19, $20 million range.
They won't do it. They will not pay him more than Chubb. They will not pay him more than Chubb.
I agree with you. Now here's the thing, though.
Let me just say, I'm sorry. I just want to throw that in there. First off, I think it might be more on the back end than there is on the front end. I can't see it where it's going to be more expensive now. They're going to try to free up a little more cap to make some moves after June 1st in regard. And I'm not really concerned with Christian Wilkins' deal. I think that's going to get done. I think they want to get it done.
He doesn't have to be signed this year. You don't have to sign him.
He doesn't have to, but I think they want to get it done.
They will sign him. But I think they won't, people, because you know how loyal he is. This is the first draft pick that was there when this rebuild, so-called rebuild happened.
Maybe I understand.
There might be more impact players.
He's the heart of the defense.
It was the first pick of Greer without anybody over his shoulder.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah,
it's a good point. And again, I think he's
the heart. Color's comment. Why is Color joining our show? Color doesn't want to join. He thinks that we're too good for him. Real Talk Fins Talk is more important for Color.
He's in the comments, dude. It's all good.
I'm bugged. I want to join. I want to hear his beautiful voice.
But let me
Color's
just say,
awesome.
I know he's the best.
Yeah, he is. Great dude. And Rob is there too. Rob's watching the Red Sox.
The Red Sox. Oh, yeah.
He's watching the Red Sox.
What's funny? I'm looking at New England, looking at Lamar. I'm looking at Josh Allen. I'm looking at Rodgers. And with our defense, I'm not worried about any of them.
No. Because you want to know what? For me, it always reminds me, if you go back to that Super Bowl a couple years ago with the Bucs, it doesn't matter how good your quarterback is. If you have a stout defense, you're going to be chasing them.
Did he break the record for most miles run behind the line of scrimmage?
He ran backwards all day long, right?
But here's the thing. Everybody talks. I had one person try to argue with me about, if he's not putting on a uniform and getting on the field, he's not going to be the biggest signing of the offseason. I go, well, hold up. I remember when Flores was here. Now, mind you, I'm not a Flores apologist or anything like that. But what he did with that defense, with that amoeba defense, confused people. You look at his replacement last year, and it was straight zero blitz. There was no confusion. There was no sending people back, pulling people up. And he didn't know how to do it right. And that's what got us killed last year compared to the years before. The defensive coordinator making those calls is one of the most important things on the defense on the team. And that's what Fangio is a master of.
Yeah, The difference with Fangio, though, is he can utilize his safeties a little bit more. The problem with Boyer is he thought that Cater Kohu was Byron Jones. And the only reason why Florida's defense worked the last couple of years is because you have to have 2 shutdown corners. We had an injured shutdown corner who had to end up playing the slot because Needham wasn't there a lot. And they targeted him, and they didn't have and they had to rely on Kohu. And they were
do me a favor. Go look at the games from last year and the year before.
Oh,
there was a huge difference besides the shutdown corner being missing.
Oh, so many zero blitzes. Yeah, it was.
No,
they couldn't get to the quarterback. There was no pressure.
When you see Flores was doing it, and then you would see all of a sudden 2 of the defensive linemen dropping back into coverage, or you're bringing everybody faking it, and the outside line edge guy dropping back into coverage out the blue. That's the one thing that was missing last year, because once everybody got up to the line, they were all rushing the quarterback. There was nobody dropping back to help out at all. Flores would confuse you. You wouldn't know who's coming and who's going, where they're coming from, and where they're dropping back at. That's what confused the quarterbacks. Yeah. You got to be able to know how to call the plays, and that's where we lacked last year.
Yeah, absolutely. No. For me, I couldn't agree with you more. Because guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Todd, you've been fantastic. I know Bobby wants to leave this like in an hour and 10 minutes. I know he has to focus on other things, be with his family. But tell me a little bit, because you haven't had the opportunity to come on a network or on our show. What are your thoughts on numero uno? What are your thoughts on him as a quarterback? Did you like him coming out? What are your thoughts on re-signing him to his 5th-year option? Like, take a couple of minutes to talk about what you think of Tua.
I liked him coming out.
Yeah. Was he who you wanted?
I am happy with the re-signing of the 5th-year option.
Yeah.
And honestly, the head injuries were something completely different than what he's had injury-wise before.
Yeah.
There was always those little knick-knack injuries that were knocking him out before. All 3 of them were his fault.
Yeah. 100%.
When you hold the ball for 4 to 5 seconds, you're going to get hit. And NFL offensive line cannot hold your pass coverage that long. Yeah. And if he gets those under control, the numbers he was putting up last year was insane. He still only ended up with 8 interceptions, 3 of them after a concussion in the second quarter against Green Bay. Yeah. And you could tell he wasn't right with where he was throwing the ball. And so what you're looking at, if he didn't have that happen, if they would have taken him out like they're supposed to, he would have had 25-5.
And if you take away the bad San Francisco game, he would have been 25-3. So it's not even comparable. The jump that he made, I'm very happy with. And these are correctable issues, right? Like, these are correctable issues.
Yeah.
That I think that are the most critical for me. Like, for me, people can make fun of all they want about what he's trying to do, but at least he's trying to do it, right? Color, welcome. How's it going? Todd, one of your big buddies, one of your biggest fans that joined the show. What's up, Color?
Oh, not much.
What's up, Color?
Thank you, guys. I'm glad. Appreciate you letting me have a spot to say something. First, I'm just going to refrain from talking about you know who, but
you can talk about him. I love talking about Bobby. You guys a few more minutes with Color here.
I'm just getting a little nauseous here and all that.
Color, you know why I want to improve the offensive line more than anything? It's not the protection, because I think the protection did fine last year. Like I said, all 3 of his injuries, his head injuries, were his fault. But the run game, more consistent with the run game, I think the offensive line could use a little bit better.
That goes without saying. But I'm actually not as chicken little as everybody else is with the offensive line. I still think that.
Where'd you go, Color?
Oh,
he thinks that. We'll welcome him back in. He may have dropped out. But Todd, you can continue on what he was talking about a little bit.
I was just saying the run game is where the offensive line, in my mind, needs to improve.
Yeah.
That's where I look at it. Not as far as the pass protection, because they held their own. Now, I will say one thing. We should have re-signed our right tackle from last year.
The Shell's still available. I don't know why they're not signing him.
I know. Shell should be back on this squad.
Yeah.
I trust him over AJ.
For sure. 100%.
You know, so no, Brandon Shell should be back on the squad, but now we do need to improve the run game a little bit. We do need it, but like he said, a lot of that was because he didn't call enough runs, which I like accountability from our head coach.
Yeah.
So
100%.
it shows he's actually learning from his mistakes.
Well, he admitted it, which is phenomenal, right? That's what we expected from him. Because I was harder on him. Being a bandwagoner that I am, I was more harder than anybody on our network on him, because he things that were very obvious. Like, I always made the joke that there must be something wrong with the pheromones in the Dolphins head coaching, because he was as stubborn as Flores was, in terms of because literally the defense, we're running 7 yards of carry in Buffalo, he halts the run. It's third and it's just, I never understood it. The clock management. He got in his own way. But that was the risk of hiring him.
The game that really got me was the Tennessee playing game with Flores.
Oh, yeah.
When our running back had almost 50 yards at halftime, and he never really ran the ball again in the second half.
Yeah, Duke Johnson. Yeah,
Duke Johnson was killing it. You got to be able to be stubborn with what works that day.
Yeah. The hardest thing I had with this re-sign. Okay, I'm okay with the re-signing. But the problem with the re-signings of these guys, I like Mostert, I like Wilson, is none of them are true pass catchers. And when they've tried to use them as pass catchers, it hasn't really worked. And at the same, can you log in as a producer in another window? That way you can stay as long as you want. It's got to help my grandmother or something. You have to remind me. 1 second. Bobby's asking me to do something. Remind me now.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I came in on my phone now this time. I'm having problems with my USB ports on my computer with my audio interface. It keeps cutting out.
You just got that cheap phone service.
Yeah, but no, I was gonna say that. 1 second. How long? 1 second. I'm just gonna ask Bobby, because how long do you need? We can stay on. 1 second. So for me, what were we talking about? The running game. The running game with Mostert and Wilson and that group, none of them are great pass catchers, and they do need a decent run blocking. They do decent blocking. If they go get a running back like a Charbonnet, or they try to go get a more of a bell cow, a power runner, they don't have to worry as much as of the offensive line if they're going to get the running back. That's the problem I only have with the offensive line. If you said the perfect name,
Jahmyr Gibbs.
Jahmyr Gibbs, yeah, 100%.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. They do need to catch a little bit better, but at the same time, how can I say it? They do an okay job with what they do outside the pocket when they're going out in the receiving. Wilson did okay. Moser did okay. The best pass catcher we got is Gaskins, so he doesn't have the home run speed.
Yeah. Exactly. Color, what are your thoughts on the running game?
Well, as I was saying, I'm not as chicken little on the offensive line. I thought we actually saw marked improvement throughout closer to the end of the year last year.
But that was with Brendan Shell.
I thought we owned the trenches in Buffalo in the last regular season game. We got away from things that were working for us that night when the snow started falling, which I don't really put on Tua, but at the same time, if you're going to, that's kind of where I'm like both with Tua and McDaniel. It's like, okay, McDaniel, if you're going to put the ball into his hands at a moment where other things were working, and those things that happened to be working that night also work really well in the snow, it kind of was like, okay, why are you choosing now to put it into his hands, as if to prove something that didn't really need to be proved, because all we really want to do is win. You know what I mean? I don't care if Tua's got the weakest arm in the history of the NFL if we're winning. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I thought we were really improving on O-line. Yeah, there's probably tweaks. There's another year in camp. Likewise for Tua. So I'm not totally chicken little as much as I advocate for Lamar Jackson coming to Miami. And I will continue to do that until it's absolutely not an option anymore. I don't, no matter what anybody says out of the organization, and maybe I'm being a little tinfoil, but at the same time, it's not not the first and not the last time we'll ever hear a corporation lie to its customers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it is what it is. I'm just choosing to believe the alternative, and that's for right now, and that's fair enough. However, on the Vic Fangio thing, where Vic Fangio comes into that, is that, you know, I fully agree with the guys last show that were saying, hey, everybody pump the brakes. You're not going to see everything overnight. He's got to get his people in. He's got to have another year where he can identify who are my people going forward.
Yeah. And
kind of, for lack of a better word, cull the herd. You know what I mean? And so the thing of it is that I'll say a couple things. First of all, sorry, I had to decline that phone call. First of all, last season, before the season started, I actually predicted and thought we would at one point during the year, we would hold the top spot in the league on defense. And I was wrong. I mean, everything regressed big time. There was injuries. I'm not making excuses, but there was injuries. Yeah. There was failures in coaching. There was all kinds of stuff that caused us to regress big time on defense, probably more than Mike McDaniel warned us about. That being said, we still, in just about every game, kept our team in a position for our offense to score more points than our opponent. And that was still like, okay, fine. But that being said, you bring in a guy like Fangio, you know, we scored, you know, or we had like 24 points, 24 and a half points scored against us per game on defense last year. That's up from a 3-year average of 21. And I'm thinking, okay, right out of the gate, we should at least expect to get back to those numbers, given everybody's healthy, given bringing Jalen Ramsey in, David Long, a couple of the other moves we made, Fangio himself. So I am encouraged because I do think that even, you know, with what we displayed last season on offense, yeah, it could have helped to have less points per game scored against us, sure, because we were still scoring the same 24 and a half points per game on offense.
Yeah.
That should translate to at least a couple more wins, you would think. You know what I mean? So I'm encouraged, even if I don't get what I want per se on quarterback, it's still going to be the team I want going into the season. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And a team I can support and back. But as far as the last thing I'll say about Fangio, for anybody that thinks, oh, well, you know, somebody had mentioned he had great players. And, you know, yeah, there's something to be said for that, you know, being lucky to land on teams with good players and all. But there's also something to be said for, man, he does seem to get lucky an awful lot in his career.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? If you start looking at the accolades where he's been throughout his career, he's always been on with a team with a championship level defense.
Arguably, Tua had his worst game last year against the Chargers.
Yeah.
And who's our passing game coordinator? The Chargers. The Chargers defensive coordinator from last year took the step back to come over with us.
Yeah. What's his name?
He used to be a safety for us.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, Todd, because most staunch Tua supporters like to have that reverse with San Francisco and L.A. But yeah, L.A. was actually a worse ball game.
San Francisco.
The reason why I say it's a worse ball game is because the Chargers defense didn't compare to San Francisco's defense.
That's the number one thing. But yeah.
Yeah, we brought in Ronaldo Hill, 100%. He was a great signing. Because the San Francisco game was just, it started off well, that beautiful first play. We all lost our minds on that first play with Trent Sherfield. It was phenomenal. But then Tua sort of lost his mojo. I think he was a little nervous trying to put on McDaniel. The overall game in L.A. was just a massive miscalculation and adjustments between Tua and McDaniel, the defense. And Staley knew how to play that defense, connected to Vic Fangio. And, and
we had no answer for Christian McCaffrey.
Not Christian McCaffrey in LA, but what ended up happening with Herbert didn't have a great game. He ended up getting Keenan Allen and Mike Williams back. But what was ironic is because we were playing man and we were blitzing so much, ironically, what was Staley doing? Staley was dinking and dunking with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, which he knew would work against this defense because our defense was not playing zone. We were
Well,
playing
you got to remember, Herbert's the #1 dinker and dunker in the NFL last year by a yard.
And
Exactly.
Keenan Allen catches everything thrown to him. I mean,
Oh,
let's
God.
face it.
I wanted to check it. I want to check his hands for stickum sometimes with the way he holds onto that ball.
100%. 100%. So overall, guys, because you haven't had a chance to talk about it, if you had to go out there at 51 right now, Color, and Todd do the same thing, who is based on what might fall or how things are looking, what do you want at that position? Do you want defense? Do you want offense? What are your expectations kind of heading into the draft?
Given the current situation the way it is, if it plays out, which that's all I can go by.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My thing about Lamar is sort of a pipe dream. So given what the circumstances, yeah, and going into the draft the way things are, I'm not big on I think we're starting to get cleared up on linebacker. I think we're starting to really get stacked in the secondary. Maybe we need a little more.
Edge is stacked.
Well, I think what I would probably do is if I was still, on the fence myself about Wilkins and this is what it was about, then I would probably see what happens in that department in the draft at that pick. But I'd still probably be focusing on a young running back that I don't know. See, I don't know so much that everybody. I understand the bell cow idea, and because I'm a big fan of getting Derrick Henry in here, but
Color,
at the
you
same
mean
time,
actually agree on something?
at the same time, we
I
are
want Henry in here too. So
we are clearly building a West Coast offense, and what Mike McDaniel is trying to do, in my opinion, is kind of implement a deep ball wrinkle into that, which is kind of outside the tradition of a West Coast system, and that's kind of compromising the tight end production. You know what I mean? Because traditionally you're using the tight end a lot in that system for short intermediate passes across the middle. But now it traditionally doesn't use a bell cow running back. It is a system designed for running back by committee. And precisely the type of running backs we've been bringing in. So that being said, if we're not going after Dalvin Cook, then there's a few running backs in the draft that fit that mold. And that's probably what I would do.
Jack Charbonnet, like those two players alone are two players that they're sitting there. If you're trying to build up this offense to get a really great running back,
and there's a very underrated guy that you can get later at running back. I loved how Sean Tucker's game was.
Yeah,
the man can catch, the man can run. He has a little weakness in his blocking, but a lot of running backs come out of college with that weakness.
Right. I'm also not opposed, like a lot of people are. I'm not opposed to getting an offensive lineman at that position because
that's me.
Because we've had some bad luck in recent history, but if you take away recency bias, we've actually done fairly well as an organization over the decades drafting guys on offensive line. I mean,
it was a development, and similar to go ahead.
Here's my thing. Everybody says Greer is somebody who listens to the coach, right?
Yeah.
Well, let me see what McDaniel and Smith decide to do with offensive line. Let them pick the offensive lineman and see if they have better luck than what we've had the last couple of years. Yeah. Give them that opportunity because they know what they want. They know what fits their system. And let's see how they go.
For me, the offense is built around the fact that they think with the offense they had last year, if they bring it back, they were top 6 with some injuries here and there. They think they can be better than that. They just need to go out and get it. If Cody Mock is sitting there at 51, you run because the guy can play all 5 positions. For me, I would even if you want to keep Connor Williams at center, John Michael Schmitz, who's the stout center, the guy's a monster. I'd run and get him.
You're up there before your time goes on the clock if you know the guy's not picking.
Exactly.
That guy is a monster.
But is there a player in the first round that if you still see him sitting there early in the second round that you're going to be like licking your chops? Like, are you a Darnell Washington fan? Are you a Jahmyr Gibbs fan? Are you a John Campbell fan?
Darnell Washington would be the guy for me because of his blocking. Yeah. That can cover up a weakness at right tackle just because he's another tackle out there. That would be me that would be my one little wild card in wanting to jump up.
Yeah, for me too. For me, you have to go. In the end, they have to go fill the needs, and also with the kind of offense, because the way they ran that offensive line in San Francisco, he has to do something similar, and he's not doing that yet. So I think he thinks that he can go get this in the draft. I think he thinks he can find that right fit in the draft, because obviously, the same way they talk about Tua, the same way they talk about Austin Jackson and Liam Eichenberg, they're not going to shoot down these guys and ruin their confidence now when they still have them under contract. They're not just going to cut them for the sake of cutting them, because depth is depth. Whether they can perform or not, they're not going to. It's very hard. They're just not going to drop them for the sake of dropping them. For me,
right.
So for me, overall, the draft. That's why I think the whole Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, all that. Until the draft until they see what the draft happens, they're not going to make those decisions on those players, because they want to see what they can get in the draft before they make a big splash again. Because Greer, he knows that this year is his year. If they don't win a playoff, for me, one playoff game win is not enough. If they're not fighting to get to the AFC Championship this year, they're in trouble, because this is a team that has right now, I believe, a 2-year window, and if they don't hit that 2-year window, they're going to be in trouble they're going to be in cap hell. And I know that
now hold on with that one. It was brought up earlier, and I agree. But there's 3 players we can get off of next year that'll take us out of cap hell real quick. We didn't restructure. One.
Thinking Howard. Thinking Chubb or no?
No.
Chubb, no. Baker, and on the offense, the Armstead's extended. He's guaranteed.
Nope.
Agba, yeah.
You notice we didn't restructure any of them, because that's the way we can get off of them next year. If we restructure them, we're stuck for a little while longer with them.
Yeah, absolutely. But also for me, the biggest problem they have right now, which they would dream, I think they'd give up one of their picks. I'd give up a 5th or 6th round pick. I'd even consider giving up our 3rd round pick if we could get Cedric Wilson off the books. Because if Cedric Wilson, $7 million gets off the books, plus the $13.5 million with Byron Jones, I think then they'll go out and they'll splash. But right now, that kind of a contract, that $7 million guaranteed,
I agree with you on that.
It's a big problem.
I agree with you completely on that. We need to get him off the books.
It's really a problem. And I wouldn't be surprised if they could find a taker for Agba. They find a taker for Agba too. Like, those are 2 contracts they signed last year, which I think Greer second guesses himself on. I think he's questioning.
Well, no, I don't think he second guesses himself with the Wilson contract. The reason why is at the time you did not know you were getting Tyreek Hill. That's
true. It just was a lot of money for a guy. The question is how would, even with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle there, how was he out? How was River Craycraft and Trent Sherfield getting more playing time than him? That was the shocker for me. Like, if he's such a stout guy, and he's the third, and he was such a stout guy in Dallas, how was he the 5th or 6th guy on our team? It didn't make sense. Like, something was up there. Like, something McDaniel did not. I don't think that was necessarily a McDaniel signing. I think that was Greer just trying to fill in the holes.
Here's the thing about it, though. I think he was going to be the outside guy.
Yeah.
If Tyreek wasn't here. In the slot, Sherfield was blocking way too good. Those guys put their bodies on the line a lot more than he does.
Yeah, absolutely.
And without Gesicki blocking, when you don't have a tight end to block in the middle, you rely on your receivers to block a little bit more up the middle of that field.
Yeah. And I'm going to also add to that, as a person who not only played the wide receiver position, but kept it going throughout my life and kind of honed my skills, even though I never had the body type to play football professionally. But I will say that there are certain things about River Craycraft and the way he catches the ball that if you really understand, what separates good from great when catching a football, and I'm just speaking about catching it. I'm not talking about what it takes to be a good or a great wide receiver. Just as far as catching the ball, you could be a great catcher and be a poor wide receiver. But he and coming from San Francisco with over with Mike McDaniel and all that, he's somebody he trusts. He's somebody that he knows will catch a ball no matter what. And as was evidenced when you got Tua rolling out and firing it into the end zone
near all year.
I mean, maybe
He's on the
also puts it,
bandwagon. He can be in near whatever he wants to be. He's on the bandwagon.
yeah, I would assume that he puts himself in the right position, i.e., in the way of in the way of a lot of defenders at the right time. That probably is something coaches like.
Yeah,
because I thought he'd be, as much as I like the guy, I thought he'd be the odd man out between him and Sherfield, but it turned out to be Sherfield that left.
Sherfield lost his job. You want to know when Sherfield lost his job? The moment Trent Sherfield lost his job, and we were all watching it, when he dropped that ball in the end zone, it was the easiest catch. I think it was the easiest throw to and through all year, and literally he dropped it.
And you could argue, oh well, wasn't on target, this or that. But when we've always given that deference to guys like Dan Marino, where it's like, why'd he put the ball right there? Well, because that's the only place that the defender wouldn't intercept the dang thing.
You know what?
You know what I mean?
Though? I think Sherfield lost the job because he disappeared the whole second half. He was not like he was in the first half of the season.
If I'm going to put it on Waddle the way I do for those 3 drops, then I have to put it on Sherfield for dropping that ball.
In that game too, but
here's the other thing: Barrios, and I think they wanted to bring up Eazy-E too for more playing time.
Yeah, but Easy they have to figure out because they tried to make him a slot receiver throughout the season, and he was more of a deep threat when Skyler was in with preseason. They have to figure out what they're going to do with him this year. But I think their goal is for him to be a 3 or a 3-4 easy. They didn't draft him for the sake of drafting him. So for me, that's key. So Color, give me your thoughts because we talked about it earlier in the show. What do you think the holdback is on signing Wilkins? Because everyone thought it was going to be such a quick, easy thing, sign him to his contract, and then gain some cap space out of it. Why do you think they're waiting?
I think it's because he's really one of the last real leverage pieces we have in any given trade scenario or whatever. So I think, like you were saying, or like a lot have been saying, we're going to kind of. First of all, he's not pleased with certain, aspects of the deal and all that. Yeah. And secondly, again, there's something to be said for waiting to see what kind of shoes drop in the draft and all that, and what other teams are able to fill with their needs and all that, and which teams, have a bag to give if they weren't able to fill that need. You know what I mean? So I think it'll go down. I think we'll get it done, to be honest with you, unless there's some kind of big thing that we don't know about that we need him for to trade. You know what I mean? Other than that, I see it getting done eventually.
What if it doesn't get done? What do you think we could get for him?
I mean, if you couple him with another player, you could get Lamar Jackson. I mean, let's be real, but I'm not saying that's who we would go after. I'm saying that's the level of player you could get.
No, I'm saying draft-wise, what could you get for him?
Oh, well, then you're talking, for him alone, I would say at least maybe a first round. Some would argue 2, but, maybe a first in 2 seconds,
Yeah, he's a stout player. He's one of the best interior linemen in the league for what he is. The problem is the Payne contract. The problem they had is if they were going to sign him, they should have to sign him before Payne. But now they have to sort of play with that because I'm sure that's what his agent is basing his contract on.
Right, and let's face it.
My problem is I'm going to have to pay.
Well, some people have some issues with his. I'm sorry, Todd. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Todd.
Well, we have to pay Phillips.
Okay, my problem is I'm going to have to pay Phillips soon. So in a way, I would rather, if I can get something for him right now, because he only has 2 years left till he's in his 30s, Wilkins. Yeah. And I would rather pay for the younger talent for the longer period of time. So
the thing of it is for me is that, some things have been said about his pass rushing or lack thereof or whatnot, but it just seems to me like every time there's something big going on, 80% of the time his name's involved, so that's kind of tough to give up. But
I agree with you. Listen, I love the player, but I can't give 3 people on the D line $20 million a year soon.
Well, it's the same way they didn't want to give trust me, they wanted McGlinchey. If they could have got, but they weren't paying McGlinchey at right tackle more than they're paying Teron Armstead. They weren't going to put 40-something million between, and also they have to re-sign Williams. Like they need to re-sign Connor Williams. So like they weren't going to put like $50 million or $55 million on 3 linemen. They were never going to do it. So same thing. I agree with you on the defense. They can between Ramsey at 20 million, then Howard at 16 million, then Chubb at 15, 16 million. Then you have Phillips. You're going to end up having to get 15 plus million too. Ogba's in the 12, 13. They can't do that. They're going to go cuckoo.
Right.
They go crazy.
And again, I think people also
you
get
forgot
a little.
another big name. You forgot another big name, Javon Holland.
Holland's going to get paid too.
He doesn't even get a 5th year. He's 2nd round pick.
Yeah. And a lot of people get a little antsy, but at the same time, we didn't have Wilkins before we got Wilkins. So it's not, I mean, that's the type of position and player that can easily be scored again in the draft. You know what I mean? It's not like it's the end of the world. Given Sealer's performance, given Sealer's performance, Phillips, other guys we've brought in, we'll see what happens. Fangio. It may not be that big a deal to lose a guy like Wilkins.
All right, hey, if we got what you got, a 1st and 2 seconds, there's a guy in the 2nd round from Baylor that's a 350-pound defensive tackle that fits the Fangio scheme perfectly. He's a run stopper, and he's a guy who takes up the middle.
Siaki, you're talking?
Yes.
Yeah, he's high on a lot of people's list for sure. 100%. To answer Kenneth's question, we have color commentary and Todd, 2 phenomenal guys. I just want to remind everyone, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're going to be jumping off in about 4 minutes because Bobby is kicking me out. I forgot. I didn't have a chance to produce it tonight. Next week I'll produce. But I just want to let everybody know on the network for the next couple of weeks, as we lead into the draft, I want to continue to do open mic nights. My co-host Mike Vogel should be back next week, but I want to give everyone the opportunity to come here because I think it's a lot of fun to be able to give everyone the opportunity to come on to this show and just talk Dolphins and talk about anything they want and just shoot the breeze. I hate having set. I'm one of those guys who doesn't like to have a set plan on the show. I really want to wing it, have fun, and have cool people come on the show who teach me more and more about the Dolphins because no one's a bigger fan than me, and we're such a fan base that we just want to have fun with our Dolphins, So that's the most enjoyable part. But Kenneth, thank you for joining. Steve, California, I didn't get to say hi, so you didn't see anyone because they don't want to show their beautiful faces. They have beautiful faces for radio, but they don't want to show their faces. I'm hopefully they'll show their faces if they join next week again. Guys, we just have a couple more minutes until Bobby joins us in the private chat and tells us to say goodbye. What are you looking forward to as we over the next couple of weeks? As things are staying quiet, what are you focusing on for the Dolphins over the next couple of weeks? What are you hoping for?
Honestly, there's really not much going to happen over the next couple of weeks. That they're going to be
a big trade. You projected.
I don't expect a trade. I don't expect a trade until at least draft day.
Do you think they would do something during draft day? Like, do you think they can find something if they see a player? Do you think even if they take some of them, like, to try to find a Cedric Wilson to give up a pick to move around, like, do you see that's when he might go? Or
I think that's when everything will happen. Until then, honestly, this is the quietest I've ever seen it coming out of Miami.
Yeah,
even when Flores preached about not letting stuff out, this is the quietest now that you see. You don't know what's going on. I think we're just going to be stuck in boredom and guessing and praying what happens, what we want.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just want to mention one player who has not been talked about, I think, at all from anybody. My disappointing player for last year, who I think needs to have a complete redeem year because he was brought in actually to act as a blocker, and why we're all talking about the offensive line, was Alec Ingold. Alec Ingold was a fullback that we were very high on. He was my sleeper pick, Bobby's sleeper pick heading into the last season, how he could really help us. And I think that he really regressed from his time in Vegas.
Nope, I disagree with you.
You don't think so? Tell me why.
No, and that's because he played so many positions.
You think?
Look what he was doing. He played a lot of the tight end blocking roles when he went out. He was out in the slot. He would go. He was making catches down the field a little bit, dropping some.
Yeah,
but overall, his blocking, I had nothing against his blocking. I think he was fine, and he was learning the whole system. Like I said, look how many times. Look up where he was lined up. Look how many times he lined up in the tight end slot.
Yeah, I get it.
He had to learn multiple things real quick because remember he was coming back from injury. He didn't get in till late.
Yeah. You're right. So you just convinced me. And if you join next week, you can convince me again. Guys, Bobby's giving me the thumbs up to get out of here. I wish I want everyone to don't forget to like and subscribe. Color, Todd, it's a pleasure to have you guys. It's
Oh,
really
thank
a
you so
pleasure.
much.
talking to you.
Appreciate you having me.
Guys, we're going to have another open mic night. Join us, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We have great shows happening with Fast Break tomorrow. No Holds Bars taking a little bit of a pause. Our wrestling post-WrestleMania show because of Passover for myself and Alec Brown because I want to jump on that show too. So we'll probably be doing it Thursday. You might see Bottom Up FinsUp as well. We're going to see Huddle Up and Wait, Fins Talk Today, Once Upon a Sunday. Then we're going to have East 10th Street Boys back with Real Talk Fins Talk and the open mic night on the Fins Bandwagon with myself and Michael Vogel. Hopefully Color and Todd will join us again. Everyone in the comments, Kenna, Dolphins Thirsty, Steve, California, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And for myself, Color, Todd, Ben, who got to join. Thank you, Ben, for stepping in for a little bit. And Bobby, who's the man. Fins up, everybody. Thanks for everyone for joining us. Thanks, guys.